So we started sort of tossing around a lot of ideas to figure out what we wanted to make. So at the time, we took a vote, which was a bad way to do it. We ended up with a history sci-fi fantasy game. That didn't last a long time because nobody could agree on it. So we went through a lot of revisions. We worked together, and leadership started to form. Afterwards, we ended up coming with our sort of final idea, which we'll get to in just a second. Once we had settled on our project, we worked through the summer with leadership from Adam, Tyler, and several other folks to really build out what we had. And this semester, we've gone into full production, and it has been incredible. So, let me go ahead and introduce you. So, I could talk all day about everything about this, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you the trailer.
Maybe. Maybe the click on this work. No, don't replay it. No. So, I know, pretty hype trailer. There was a lot that happened there that you're probably like, looks a little rough around the edges. That's because it is. So, what is Isles of Aether? Explore a shattered realm where fragments float amidst the heavens. We are a third-person action-adventure game. Character motivation, quite simple, simply stop the Civil War, everyday hero stuff. What are you going to be doing? You're going to be exploring, collecting, and fighting with a diverse arsenal. And how do we plan to support these? Simple, we use these pillars.
So, the main pillars of our game are responsive combat, a robust arsenal, and a fantastical atmosphere. We wanted to kind of have a mix here of engineering and artists, obviously. So, on the engineering side, we really wanted that robust arsenal and responsive combat to give us some depth to our game. So, the fantastical atmosphere is, well, it's floating islands, it's very high fantasy. I love it a lot. And yeah, for more in-depth, go ahead and move on to Adam.
Hi, Dave. So what are our inspirations for our responsive combat? We took inspiration from these titles: Jedi Survivor, Ghost of Tsushima, and Witcher 3. We chose these games because the primary combat style is with primarily melee focus, melee combat with a secondary commander. Say Jedi Survivor with the Force and Witcher 3 with Science. We felt Jedi Survivor and Witcher 3's combat was quick and responsive because we want the game to be fun. We want for enjoyable gameplay, and we felt Ghost of Tsushima, each attack within it felt satisfying to do, and wanted you to continue doing it. We felt all these attributes in these games were a must for enjoyable gameplay. So, what are our goals? Our goals for our responsive combat were to make engaging gameplay. We want our player to have a satisfying experience. We also wanted a fast-paced encounters. We are an action game. We should keep the player within the action. And finally, we wanted to have combat driven by the player. We want the player to have fun. We don't care about the enemies. And now for how the player will be how the player combat will work. This is our attack framework. Within it, we have melee attacks, spell casting, and attack combos. We don't want to limit the player with set actions. We want to give the player the ability to sequence their attacks in any order they wish. And now that you have heard about our responsive combat, let's move on to our robust arsenal.
So what does a robust arsenal mean? Robust arsenal, in this case, we want to give the player many different options so that they can approach combat in many different ways. And with these many different options, we want to give the player all these different weapons. So the inspirations that we took for all of these weapons are from Skyrim, Baldur's Gate 3, and Elden Ring. And we selected these games because we agreed that all of these games have a wide variety of different weapons to use to give a different spice to each combat. So, like I said, it gives player versatility, it gives unique weapons to control, and we'll get into that in the next slide here. And then we wanted to put all of these weapons in and around the map so the player can find them, which also supports one of our other pillars, which is the fantastical atmosphere. So,
He's cooking too hard.
I got it.
you got it.
Oh. Okay.
So our main focus for development was the sword. We wanted the sword to be the primary thing, and we've been working on it. And here are a couple of our designs. In the process, we also have other different types of weapons, including a polearm, a more close quarters melee fist option, as well as some larger weapons that have more weight, like a great weapon. And we also have concepts here for other weapons, including blunt weapons like hammers, even an anchor there, and an axe. So this will give the player so many different options to go into combat and think about what they want to use.
I got it.
Okay, thank you. We're also using motion capture because we feel that motion capture will give us a realistic fluid motion for the animations, and also cuts down a little bit on actual time focused on animation, so we can use this to streamline a bit. And included in our vast arsenal is also spellcasting.
So, spellcasting. Within our spells, within our spell types, we have augments. Each spell type has 3 augments. A single target, an area effect, and a buff. This buff can be on the weapon to increase the damage or add an effect, or it can be on the character to enhance their abilities. As you can see, this is our blaze spell type. On the left, we have the Kindled Edge, which is a weapon buff. In the middle, we have Firewall, which is a single target that leaves an area effect trail. And we have Incineration on the right, which is an area effect. This spell was designed to be contact damage with some damage over time. Next, we have our curse spell type. We have Hex, Withering Haze, and Curse Blade. Unlike the previous spell, the curse type is meant for debuffs, not damage. This adds on to allowing the player to freely choose what they want to do within their combat scenarios. And finally, we
Skip the slide.
this thing is finicky. And finally, we have a sword spell type. We have Blade Beam and Sword Storm. This spell type is meant to do flat damage and not add effects. And now that you have seen our robust arsenal, let's move on to the fantastical atmosphere.
you're struggling with
There
this.
we go. That's one. There we go.
So welcome to the fantastic atmosphere. So what we were inspired by was Absolver, Sifu, Ashen, and Spyro. I know some of these games probably haven't heard of. That's okay. So for our art direction, we used Absolver and Ashen just because they have a wonderful painterly style that we wanted to implement, and we thought it could really boost our workflow. For Sifu, we took our inspiration for arena-based combat from there, kind of forcing the player constantly forward. Left 4 Dead 2 works as well. And then we also chose Spyro for some of its otherworldly nature, as well as some of the color scheme going throughout it. We've now skipped. So our goals, we want to have an engaging environment that forces the player to constantly be adapting. Distinguish ourselves from other games, and considering you probably don't know half these games, I think we're doing pretty well so far. Something that feels like a mesh as well with the combat style. We're kind of going for the over-the-top, like, we want you to feel like a badass, essentially. And get that otherworldly feeling nailed down. So, let's let you see a first look at some of our enemies. Here we have the Gorbits and Giblets. These are our puntable, lovable little fellows, about EA high. These are our trash mobs that really empower the player because you just mow through these guys. Over there on the far left or right, depending on how you're sitting. I don't know why you'd be sitting backwards though. We have the Gorbit Champion who uses a half a barrel loop, which would be curse you. Our next enemy is the Soldier, who is a city guard. They are able to use spells much like the first player, so they're a bit more advanced than the Gorbits and Giblets. So, looking at the map, you might be able to notice our first iteration over here. You can find this map designer online. This was something we cooked up over summer that we further pushed into our first 3D map. We wanted to make sure the player had plenty of branching options and felt like the level rewarded you for exploring. We're currently on our 3rd iteration of the map, which is currently playable out in the lobby. And here's just some screenshots we've taken directly from the game. So what we're trying to do is to make the forest feel more fantastical and not just like I just dropped you in Slenderman forest, like low res everything. We're trying to utilize a lot more foliage.
Did you go?
A lot of lot more foliage. This will be the arena we fight your first boss in. It's changed a lot since the screenshot has been taken, so you may recognize it just a little bit just because it's an arena. But we have oversized stone structures in the background to help emphasize it. Going forward, we'll have lots of different foliage, lots of different VFX to help the world truly come alive.
And that is it for our presentation. Thank you all for coming, and this has been Snowdane Studios featuring Hours of Anger. If you'd like to play our demo, it's going to be out in the lobby under the spiral staircase, and that's it. Okay.